And as a next is a colleague from Georgia also, Leila Gotziridze. Hi, Leila. Nice to see you.
Seeing, yes, my representation.
No, we don't see, but we hear you now. But the presentation is not on our screens. Yeah,
Oh,
yes. Now it.
okay.
I think you should simply start.
Can I start?
Yes, of course.
Okay. So, my report is about Shahnameh and now manuscript found in Shahnameh. So, the Cornelia Kekelidze Georgia National Center of Manuscript is located in Georgia, capital city Tbilisi. It was established more than half a century ago and is one of the largest and most important depositories of antiquities of Georgia in the world. The center is distinguished by the richness of the collections, their diversity, with several thousand palimpsests, sheets, ancient manuscript books and scrolls, rare editions, and abundance of archival materials. The Oriental Fund forms a large section of the thousands of important Georgian and foreign manuscripts in the center's depositories, combining historical documents written in Persian, Turkish, Arabic, Azerbaijan, Turkmen, and Uzbek languages, as well as artistic works created handwritten books. The unique collection that originates in the eastern of Muslim found come from Azerbaijan, Dagestan, and the province of the Republic of Turkey, Egistan in Georgia. Manuscript preserved in the fund as marked by three letters. The K collection includes the personal collection of Jadish al-Bashir Asparmaj Old Sultan. It's very difficult name, who lived in Tbilisi at the turn at the 19th-20th centuries. And the L, also known as a local collection, includes manuscripts from Georgia, Azerbaijan, Dagestan, and the region of Turkey bordering Georgia. The manuscript purchased from private individual as marked with the same label. The ARRAS, also known as the Central Asia Collection, included manuscripts obtained in Samarkand, Bukhara, and various cultural centers. The seals and inscription of the pages show that materials was collected at the Tbilisi State University, at the Institute of Caucasian Studies, later at the Institute of Georgian History, and finally at the Manuscript Department of the Simon Janashia State Museum of Georgia. The Cornelia Kekelidze National Center of Manuscript was founded in 1958 using this base. There are several hundred manuscripts which have been brought together in the collection of Persian manuscripts. Their chronology covers the 15th, 18th centuries. Monuments of secular literature, prose as well as poetic works as mainly presented in the front. Manuscripts containing historical, theological, astronomical, and medicinal writing are sorted here too. Oriental manuscripts are one of the most important and interesting areas for performing the conservation restoration processes. They are distinguished by the specific processing of Oriental paper, a variety of writing materials, delicately painted miniatures with Gothic and different colored pens, as richly decorated laser covers. This is why diagnosing the manuscript and then conducting its conversation restoration process is a kind of adventure when many difficulties and challenges await. Shahnameh, one of the greatest and most important works in the world, holds a special place among these thousands of manuscripts. This report, I shall talk about the Shahnameh and the sheets of paper found with its cover. The Shahnameh is one of the greatest artistic works of universal importance, which was created by Ferdowsi in the 10th, 11th centuries in the classical period of Persian literature. There is little information about the author. He was born either in 934/5 or 935/6 in the village of Pash, near the town of Tabran. As described, he passed away in 1027, buried in the city of Tas. The Shahnameh, called it the Book of Kings or the Books About Kings, was written over 30 years and describes the historical chronicles and the Sassanid dynasty of the Shah of Iran. Ferdowsi has a producer, Daqiqi, a poet famous for his odies, who began composing a collection of Iranian heroic tales, but passed away in an untimely way. The young poet wrote only a small part of the said collection. The throne of the Shahnameh, with the eaves decorated, was placed there by Ferdowsi. It is composed in the Persian languages and contains 60,000 baits, and is distinguished by luxurious faces, laconism, plasticity, natural dialogues with phrases and lexical archaisms. The manuscript with code P620, Persian font, was copied in 1589 or 15920. It is distinguished by its highly artistic value, the size of the format of the sheets, the decoration of the arcs, miniatures made using amazing colors and decorations, with written various techniques and them, and most notably its richly embellished cover. One of the weaknesses of sorry, just a minute. Um, uh, On this occasion, I will describe the difficult of interesting adventures of the manuscript, called the conservation and restoration of the unit and its way from the depository to another. The report will describe the difficulties and changes occurred during the work in detail. In particular, the stability of the ink and the structure of the sheet. Special attention will be paid to the issue of the conservation and restoration of the manuscript sheets taken out of the covers. All process will discuss it in detail, starting with the dismantling of the cover of the sheets from the front and back covers and finishing with their conservation. The material used with difference and quite diverse will be discussed. At the beginning of the conservation restoration process, special and decisive importance is given to the correct diagnosis of the manuscript, which means an accurate assessment of the damage. During the process, attention is paid to the treatment of the unit with mechanical, physical, or chemical means. Not all texts can withstand processing due to mechanical, physical, and chemical instability. The beginning of the restoration and conservation works of the manuscript was preceded by a determination and evaluation of the text properties. One of the main weaknesses of Oriental manuscript is the writing materials and paints used to create the text and miniatures. Indian ink or soot was mainly used for writing. Indian ink is an ancient writing material that has been used since 22 BC. It was made by burning resin containing plant and oil. The resulting soot, carbon black, was dissolved in water and glue was added. Fish or ox leather glue, as well as rice or barley broth, were used as an adhesive. Musk and added for preservation and aromatization, and various vegetable and animal additives were added to improve the color. The soot inks and Indian inks have been used in writing for a long time. It is characterized by high light proofness, which means that it does not dissolve or discolor under the influence of light. Its negative feature is that it has difficulties of penetrating paper and has a weak grip on it. At the same time, it dries quickly on the surface, which leads to peeling and poor water resistance. The latter of the most skillful and attention-grabbing factor in the work process. Shahnameh is quite large in volume. It contains 564 sheets, the length being more than 37 centimeters, the width being 23 centimeters, with the height of the block being 6.5 centimeters. The manuscript was highly burned one of the stitch. In a certain way, this is a justified method for binding large-scale manuscript because a tightly bound manuscript causes deformation of the pages and damage while in use. However, over time, the exhibit blocks became rugged and split in the middle. This is why it was necessary to remove the manuscript from its cover in order to fully carry out conservation and restoration work. After disassembling the unit, a large amount of animal glue was found in the spine, the thick layer of which has caused damage to almost every sheet. The papers had been previously restored, which is indicated by traces of old restoration, which can be seen of tens of the sheets. Ornamental manuscripts are distinguished by their rich cover decoration. They are the old restoration of the paper you see now. The deformation of the paper, the mechanical damages of this paper, you see. The Oriental manuscripts are distinguished by their rich cover decoration. The cover of Shahnameh is particularly noteworthy in this regard. It is green leather cover decorated with imprints. The surface of the cover is quite damaged. In many places, it is faded and discolored. The edges of the cover is completely worn. The cardboard has split into several layers. The outline of the imprints has been made in gold ink, which is erased or discolored in several places. The inner part of the cover of the manuscript, covered with burgundy leather, stands out with its rich decor. On the surface, there are 12 symmetrically placed ornaments of the same shapes, but different sizes, colored in red, green, blue, or gold. However, there is also a missing detail. The cover had been restored sometimes ago along with the page, as a fragment of leather of a different tones can be seen, used to fill the missing space in the lower left corner of the front back cover. Removing the layer of glue and dirt shows that a roughly processed green-colored sheet of parchment was used. For the cover of the manuscript, it was quite fragile and breakable. In addition, the green paint that was used has dried out, loosening, and almost disappeared from the surface of the parchment. Conservation restoration process of the manuscript pages was quite difficult and interesting. The processes and conservation of the areas close to the necks was very dangerous due to the instability of inks and paints. As mentioned above, the manuscript is rich in miniatures made with paints of various colors. The text is written in black ink and cinnabar and enclosed in a red frame. Frames from the miniatures were made using green, blue, or red paints. Since miniatures were widely used in Oriental manuscript and not only, writing pigments were also used to make the paints. The green paints verdigris stands manuscript. The green paints verdigris stands out among the paints used in the manuscript, and its acetic acid, the main natural materials of copper. Malachite and atacamine were used in a green paints as well. Acetic acid copper in the mass unstable and reactive of the green pigments available, and it turns brown over time. A dark outline appears on the other side of the sheet. In such areas, the paper becomes brittle and begins to disintegrate the sheets into fragments, and which it the text too. Due to the damages to the miniature, paint leaked onto the other side of the sheet and damages the text. Is in this way. This process was accompanied by an increased acidity in the structure of the paper, which has varied from 4 to 6 of the page of the manuscript. The main damages to the manuscript was found on the edges and the spine area. The sheets had small mechanical dents. The previous restoration and its removal were extremely difficult. Since the paper used the restoration was quickly thick, after a while I caused paper deformation and breaking. Alcohol and methyl cellulose were used to remove the old restoration. The text has faded in many places due to the increased acidity in the ink. There were many fixings on the surface of the sheets. The text was smeared or completely missing. After the diagnosis, the preparatory process for restoration, the conservation materials was selected. The correct selection is one of the most important factors of the process of salvage of cultural heritage. Japan restoration or preservation paper of various thickness and colors was used fiber from the surface of the paper, and in some cases cellulose we used to fill in areas that dropped text. The material should be as compatible as possible with the original during the restoration conservation process, selected in accordance with the size, thickness, color, and shade structure. This should be adjusted to the shape and degree of damage. As mentioned, the manuscript consisted of 564 pages. In addition, I would like to add the span area of every sheet was damaged, so it was necessary to completely restore this part. A neutralization solution, magnesium oxide, was used to neutralize the increased acidity. After taking them out of the press, the sheets were bound with exactly the same pattern as the manuscript had been before its assembling. This dismantling. After the work performance of the sheets, the second stage begins the conservation, restoration of cover. This is a process of the restoration, restored paper. Uh, as mentioned above, the manuscript had a green dried leather cover in inner part of which was covered with ornament burgundy leather. After the conservation restoration of the sheets, the next and no less important stage began diagnosis, conservation, restoration of the cover damage. The cover of the manuscript required a variety of conservation restoration work. The situation created during the work completely changed the sequences of the planned works. In the process of the examination and inscription, fragments of the text appeared of the lower edges of the damaged leather. It has been speculated that there could have been handwritten sheets embedded under the leather cover, which is not a rare occurrence. As a small part of the cover was opened, a fragment of text written in black ink was clearly visible. These were found, which were embedded in several layers in the cover, in the front back cover of the manuscript after the dismantling. The top was quite difficult as responsible. The matter concerned the hundred of sheets which were taken out from the front and back covers. The reasons for hiding this number of sheets of completely different sizes and structures in the cover and this process manuscript should be understood and considered. First, the inner part of the cover was removed together with this ornament. When the outer part, it was necessary to open up the layers of carton in order to see the condition inside. It was found that several dozen manuscripts had been placed in the cardboard of the front and back covers in three-ply and numerous layers. The layers had to be opened and the manuscript pages taken out. The process was quite difficult, time-consuming, and labor-intensive. The hidden manuscript were different texts. The sheets were of different size and shapes. The text was made with different calligraphy. Some of it was prose and some poetry. A large amount of animal glue was used between the layers, which made the process of removing the sheets significantly difficult. Humidification was used, which means placing the carton in a moist vacuum. This simplified the process and made it relatively easy to separate the moistened sheets from each other. However, it was still necessary to use alcohol and in some cases methyl cellulose. There was also a large amount of dirty along with a layer of glue between the sheets. After removing the sheets, the manuscript were placed in a disinfection chamber. The text of the manuscript removed from the cover, written in both black ink and cinnabar. Testing showed that the ink was quietly resistant to liquid, which is uncharacteristic of Oriental inks. Presumably, this resistance of the ink was caused by interaction with the glue for a long time. This allowed it to perform the cleaning works perfectly. The surface of the sheet was cleaned with alcohol and distillate solution. A thick layer of glue was removed mechanically and treated locally. The structures of some manuscript pages was quite thick and hard. Yet some were so thin that it was necessary to strengthen them. Uh, The discovered manuscripts were quite damaged. Some fragments of the sheets were cut into small pieces of embedded into the cardboard. Manuscripts recovered from deeper layers were in better condition. They had minor damages. The text was readable and the ink was quite stable. Fragments of some pages were so extremely damaged that text was no longer readable and the structure was so fragile that it was almost impossible to completely restore or strengthen it. The sheets which were taken out different colors and structures, three for conservation and restoration paper with maximal compatibility was chosen. Materials of different colors and weights were used. The sheet were tested for acidity during the conservation restoration works. Due to the increased pH, they were treated with the magnesium oxide and placed in a press. After disassembling and cleaning the cover of the manuscript, it was found that the raw heaven parchment was used instead of leather, and it was quite dried out and stiff. Its softening became necessary. An appropriate leather softening liquid was used for this. The cleaned parts were placed in a press for stabilization. The parchment sheets periodically treated with a leather ointment which helped to soak and its maintaining in elasticity. Shahnameh turned out to be a very interesting and important manuscript from the point of view of conservation and restoration. The work process required a complex approach and facing many challenges. I tried to make optimal decisions that would ensure maximal result with minimal intervention, maintaining an authenticity of the exhibit. This is one of the main and most important talks in the matter of salvage of cultural heritage, and which is constantly faced by the restorer. Working of Shahnameh was one of the most interesting stories in my work practice. This was not a single particular exhibit with a specific damage, but an adventure where a new challenges presented itself after its difficult has been met and overcame. You see the finished manuscript. This is a little detail, and this part was missing, and my colleague is created the copy. This is a miniatures. It's very different miniatures, but you see the colors is very different. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Leila. Someone has questions? Oh, we have question.
I'm ready. Yes, okay.
Thank you for the breathtaking presentation. And can you tell something about the origin of the paper? Did you investigate what fibers it is made of, or the sizing, or what is causing the yellowing? The paper of the manuscript.
I don't hear your questions.
You don't hear?
Please repeat your questions. Sorry.
I was asking about the origin of the paper, of the manuscripts. What is it? What is the fiber the paper is made of?
We think this manuscript is Orient or Oriental manuscript. We don't know correctly because this manuscript is written in 16th century,
Yes.
and I think this paper and the paper is Oriental. I think.
Okay, but you don't know, is it mulberry or what kind of sizing, what kind of glue they may have been using to, is it covered with starch or gelatin?
Oh no, we use it metal cellulose in the restoration
Yeah.
conservation process, and some areas we use it also stretch glue. Yes, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you a lot, Leila, for being with us and for sharing this really amazing information. Thank you.
Thank you.